To tell the story of this USC offseason, you really do have to start with what they're losing. I mean, 4 top 60 players in the portal have since transferred, including multiple former 5-stars, but they are still a top 15 recruiting class for a reason, coming in at number 14 this cycle. The main reason for that's got to be the number 4 quarterback in the class and 5-star Hassan Longstreet. But before we get rolling here, let's first hear from our friend Chris Trevino from USCFootball.com.
One of USC's biggest signatures in 2025 is 4-star Texas wide receiver Tanuk Hines out of Decaney High School. Hines is 6'1" and 185 pounds, but what really makes him special is his verified 10.45 track speed, which makes him one of the fastest wide receivers in the country. Tanuk actually could have played defensive back in college, and when you couple that with his speed, it's easy to see why he was a 2025 24/7 Sports Freaks List selection. Tanuk reminds us of Mekhi Lemon, USC's leading wide receiver from last season, and the projected wide receiver 1 for next fall. Tanuk is a little bit bigger, which helps him with contested catches down the field and faster, as he will be USC's fastest wide receiver on the roster next season. We expect Tanuk to contribute right away, not just on special teams, but USC's offense, as there are several contributors departing from the wide receiver room from 2024. Overall, Tanuk has a great chance to earn reps this coming fall for the Trojans.
And we talked about it, the emphasis for this USC team is what they have lost. But overall, how do you evaluate this offseason for the Trojans?
Well, I look at the starting 22, right, projected, and it's not as bad as you would initially think, right?
Based on the tenor and the tone when talking about USC.
Yeah, I mean, 15-11 the past 2 years, Lincoln Riley, 4-5 in their inaugural Big Ten season. Things are not going good. And I think from my perspective, like, what is the roster construction plan? That has been kind of the biggest question mark. USC has signed more prospects out of Texas and Georgia the past 2 recruiting cycles, 14 total, than California, 12. You look at that projected started 22, I think only like 4 or 5 guys are actually from California. So there is talent there. And I think the big thing for USC is there isn't going to be a ton of like expectations. Yeah, the pressure is on Lincoln Riley, but I think the opportunity is there for them to sneak up on people in 2025 and get the roster right. Chad Bowden comes in from Notre Dame. He did an excellent job of constructing that roster there. I think he's going to have a vision. Tom Loy has talked about it here in the 24/7 sports space. They are placing an emphasis on recruiting local talent here in recent weeks. So to me, expectations are going to be low. We'll see where the media, picks them in the Big Ten. I like what they have in the front 7. You like some of these wide receivers, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane. Like, there is still talent here. They can win some games, and I think it's going to give Lincoln Riley a chance to get the offseason right, to build the roster the right way and kind of recalibrate.
Yeah, the question you got to ask is, how much more time does Lincoln Riley have? Mm-hmm. And the same question that we talked about with Ole Miss, where are you going to get this offensive production? You've lost your top 3 receivers. One of the most dynamic players is Zachariah Branch. He's out of there.
Went to Georgia.
Georgia. Miller Moss, your quarterback, gone. Quentin Joyner, gone. Kyron Hudson, gone. Deuce Robinson, out of there. So you've lost a ton. And we haven't even talked about what are they doing up front. They lost their best offensive lineman and went up north to Oregon. So it's a total reconstruction. And then when you go out and you get a general manager to come in, and you really don't have a relationship with that guy, it seemed like an outside hire because the world is looking at you and your boss, the AD, is looking at you saying, hey, listen, we don't believe in what you've been doing for the last few years of getting this roster ready to play Big Ten physical, knock your nose off physical football when it starts getting cold. So I think that's what you're looking at. And the alarm button, yeah, this is one that I would press it on and said, wow, can they win 3 games? 4, 5? How many games can they win in the Big Ten, looking at their schedule?
Yeah, they'll certainly miss a guy like Emmanuel Pregnon, who went to Oregon, and Bear Alexander, although he's been all over the place, another kind of hefty guy up front. But I want to transition a little bit to the quarterback position because, you mentioned that Miller Moss now at Louisville. But you bring in a quarterback I know you're very excited about, Hassan Longstreet. Is that the answer short-term or long-term?
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go. Jaden Maeva what Jaden Maeva are we getting here in 2025? Is it the Jaden Maeva against Notre Dame in the second half? Is it the Jaden Maeva, who's throwing touchdowns? I think that is a big question. And Hassan Longstreet, number 32 player for us, a 5-star. He flipped to USC, and Tom talked about this earlier in the show, because he thinks he has an opportunity to play right away. Having seen Hassan Longstreet, the last game of his senior season there in California against Mater Dei, it did not go good. 5 turnovers, right? 5 turnovers. We saw him again at the Polynesian Bowl. He was awesome. Threw for over 270 yards, completed his first 10 passes. He was pinpoint accurate. A lot of peaks and valleys with Hassan Longstreet. Mm-hmm. But Lincoln Riley, this guy's kind of a quarterback whisperer. He's got a lot of them playing in the NFL right now, a lot of starters. So if Jaden Maeva, I think he's got as short a leash as anyone in college football, because Hassan Longstreet, he's already gone through some of the bowl practices with them. Mm-hmm. He comes in wanting to go. And my player comp for Hassan Longstreet has long been Jalen Milroe. Kind of retracted that a little bit. Jalen Milroe had 8-inch hands at the NFL Combine. Hassan Longstreet's got 11-inch hands. But they do have similar styles. When they are on, they are on. The good is really good, but there is some bad. And let's not forget, Jalen Milroe, he was in the mix relatively early at Alabama.
And my comp with him was just because his hand size was more of Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Just because of his build, the way he spins it, and there's highs and there's lows. Beautiful deep ball. Intermediate game is let's wait. Can rip it with the one ball. But Lincoln Riley has to stop this quick leech with young or even older quarterbacks, because you need quarterbacks to grow and figure this thing out. It's just like a golfer. Every now and then you're going to have a bad one. But allow me to come through and figure out how am I going to get through this worst part of my career or spot that I'm at. Because the quicker you keep on pulling these guys, there's going to be something out on them. It's a word. We can't get developed here because we don't really have a chance to get bad before we really get good. And that's every quarterback. I don't care who you are. There's a bad side to it, and then you figure out what the good is. And once you get good, you start repeating that process daily, and then that's when you get great.
We saw the stat that Lincoln Riley has coached 3 quarterbacks to win the Heisman Trophy. He's the only coach that's ever done that. So I think it's an easy question to ask. What do you think about the marriage between this quarterback and this quarterback whisperer? But overall, when it comes to fitting in what they want to do offensively, who would you prefer to have start at quarterback this season?
I don't think Hassan is really billed as this dual threat quarterback, and I don't know.
Incorrectly? He should be?
Yeah, because if you watch the game tape, he is this power runner that can win games with his legs. His junior year, he scored 5 rushing touchdowns out in Hawaii to help his team rally in the second half. He has some running capabilities. So what does USC's offense look like in 2025? You just mentioned all the wide receivers that are gone, some of the offensive linemen. Well, they added 2 really good running backs, or I should say veteran running backs. Eli Sanders comes in from New Mexico. They got Waymon Jordan, a kid originally out of Florida, number 1 ranked junior college running back. He was headed to UCF to play for Gus Malzahn, and he ends up there at USC. So, I think you can incorporate some quarterback runs, design read option stuffs, and maybe that's how you get Hassan's feet wet. But I'm not bailing on Jaden Maeva just yet. You also got to think USC's schedule, it's a softer start as it kind of ramps up in 2025. Missouri State, Georgia Southern, at Purdue, Michigan State. Week 5, that trip to Illinois. I think we're going to have a lot of answers about where USC is. We're going to have a lot of answers about Jaden Maeva, and we'll know if it's time for the Hassan Longstreet era there in LA. Last thing I want to say, I like that defensive line. Anthony Lucas, former 5-star there. Braylon Shelby, twitched up edge rusher, was a former top 247 recruit. Remember this name, Cameron Fountain, kind of came on more and more as the season went. The guy we had at the All-American Bowl, they add Jakeem Stewart, a reclassification. I think he's a guy that's going to need a few years before he's ready to go. Keyshawn Silver, number 1 ranked defensive lineman in the transfer portal. He shows up there, former 5-star. So on defense, there are some parts here, right? What happens on offense? We'll see who's the quarterback. But again, this starting 22 isn't as bad as you think.
And with DeAnt Lynn over there operating on defense, we saw a significant jump. But Jamal Jarrett, Big Ja, when he shows up on campus, that's a different force field in terms of size, athleticism. It just wore out, and he didn't have enough time at Georgia. But I think he can be a difference maker in that 3-4 defense with D. Lynn. And Bishop Fitzgerald came from North Carolina State, stabilizing the back end of that defense, communicator, playmaker, ability to play man and zone and show up at the line of scrimmage as a run defender. Those are two big hits that I thought that he did pretty good in the transfer portal, in addition to that defense, to get SC back into what you said, that Illinois game where it's going to be physical. The ball's going to be ran.
They're going to be able
to do some stuff.
They're going to be able to sneak into that, right? They're going to sneak in that. No kind of like games that are going to be in the national spotlight. Plenty of time for Maeva, the offense to kind of come together a little bit. And hey, maybe Hassan wins the quarterback competition, but like I kind of like this position for Lincoln Riley. You know, not playing in a standalone game week 1. Like figure it out. All right, Illinois. Luke Altmaier, week 5, we'll know a lot about, hey, is he going to be the guy in 2026 that is running the show there?
Yeah, because we'll definitely be talking a lot about USC this offseason. So it'll be a nice little slow burn into the season, hopefully undefeated as they head into that Illinois game week 5. If you want to read up more about USC, head to uscfootball.com. Our partners there do a fantastic job of covering your Trojans.